But in spite of all this, I think we all know, basically, that we want to be men. We want to be persons judged not on the basis of the color of our skin, but on the basis of the content of our
He
character.
literally says the same fucking thing in the speech. John, you're so dishonest, John Oliver. You're so dishonest.
John Oliver has the gall to have a bunch of right-wingers, evil right-wingers, saying, you know, oh, the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And he says, oh, MLK is spinning over in his grave. And here's him, you know, talking about, you know, why he'd be spinning over in his grave. And they play an out of context answer about the Vietnam War, and they neglect the beginning just a few minutes earlier where he literally repeats the same affirmation.
Yeah.
He later reflected on his own message and challenged white people to look more deeply at themselves. And that is something the kids...
None of that was in there. And he's talking about the Vietnam War. I went through all the things that weren't in there. Oh, John Oliver, man. This is a new low.
But maybe the most insulting distortion of history is in the quote that every single anti-CRT activist seems to love to invoke.
You think about what MLK stood for. He said he didn't want people judged on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character.
You know, I believe it was Martin Luther King that said, you know, when he was talking about his children, that
he didn't want his children to be judged
on the color of their skin,
but by the content of their character.
So is CRT like a psyop to get Republicans to not be racist or something? Like,
I wonder.
like,
it's working great if it is.
Yeah, like we're criticizing that a bunch of people who are on the right, who John Oliver thinks are racist, are quoting MLK as anti-racist prescription.
About not being racist, yeah.
About not being racist. And this is portrayed as a bad thing.
Yeah. Makes absolutely no sense. I'm completely confused. I'm confused and demoralized.
What topsy-turvy clown world, Mr. Oliver, are you trying to force us to live in?
Yeah.
And he doesn't even explain, I don't think he explains why this is bad or wrong.
Look at
the
this.
character, not by the color of...
Obama mocks GOP for critical race theory concerns. Really? What? Obama's mocking people now?
There you go.
Bad move.
Their skin.
Content of our character, not the color of our skin.
And the immortal words of Dr. Martin Luther King ring in our ears that we must judge others not by the
color of their skin,
but by the content of their character.
The left wants us to constantly focus on skin color. It's destructive. Martin Luther King Jr. is rolling over in his grave.
Yeah, you know what? I bet he is, actually. In fact, I'm pretty sure every time someone uses his words that way, Dr. King's illustrious remains spin fast enough to power the eastern fucking seaboard. Here was the thing, though. That dream speech was clearly an aspirational goal, not a description of things as they stood. And in fact, King himself later...
Yeah, but have we reached that aspiration? That's the question.
No, but he frames this so dishonestly. He says that was an aspirational goal, not saying what we have achieved or what we are.
Yeah.
All the clips of people are talking about it as an aspirational fucking goal.
Yes.
They're all saying, why are we moving towards this CRT bullshit, which is all about judging people.
Aspiration.
Yes. It's saying, why are we moving towards the CRT fucking bullshit, which is all about judging people on the content of their skin color and not their character, or on the basis of their skin color, not the content of their character. When this is, and they're criticizing this, saying, listen, the left for the last 60 years has been using this liberal framework for civil rights and racial equality, and now you're telling me the exact fucking opposite. You're telling me we have to throw that in the trash. We have to pick up this CRT garbage.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what all the evil Republicans that he quoted are saying.
Yeah, but to him, he perceives it as Martin Luther King spinning in his grave because a bunch of white racists are saying the words that he said.
Yeah. Well, he's him and John Stewart are operating off of this old framework. They still think that they're in the early 2000s and the 1990s, where they think that Republicans are making this argument to say, we don't want to spend money on social programs for Black people.
Right.
And he thinks that's why they're invoking these words, when that's not, has nothing to do with the conversation. The conversation is about, should CRT be taught in school or advocated for in the broader mainstream culture?
Yeah. Christopher Rufo is definitely advocating for school choice, which I would categorize as a social program.
Right.
To put a pretty major asterisk on it.
I must confess.
Oh, wait, let me go back. This is very dishonest, what you're about to say.
Was clearly an aspirational goal, not a description of things as they stood. And in fact, King himself later put a pretty major asterisk on it.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. And I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And in a book published that same year, he wrote that
I saw
while
a lot
the
of cuts
majority
in there.
of white Americans consider themselves sincerely committed to justice for the Negro, and they believe that American society is essentially hospitable to fair play and to steady growth toward a middle-class utopia embodying racial harmony, unfortunately, this is a fantasy of self-deception and comfortable vanity. So while it is clearly...
Okay. Let me write down we're at 21:15 because we're about to switch videos here. Okay. This is a very, very dishonest framing. So he played a clip of Martin Luther King Jr. saying, sometimes it feels like, my dream has become a nightmare. Okay.
We're going to play that actual clip?
Oh, we're going to play that actual clip.
Nice.
What do you think the question was that he was responding to?
Oh, I'm not sure, but I know that it has to be completely different than the way that John Oliver is framing it.
Well, I'll give you a hint, okay? When people dishonestly talk about Martin Luther King Jr. And the way he was perceived publicly, what is the one thing they always focus on?
That he was a socialist?
Well, sort of, but what is the one issue that they always conflate as being like, this is why people didn't like... Well, okay, whatever. It's just too hard to ask this question. I'll just play it.
And in a very real sense, these three are tied inextricably together, and we aren't going to get rid of one without getting rid of the other.
Okay, here's the question that John Oliver cut out that Martin Luther King Jr. was responding to.
Oh,
okay.
This is great.
When he says the dream is a nightmare line. Because the implication to us is he's talking something about race relations in the country, right?
Yeah, obviously.
What else would he be talking
about?
Well,
the dream that he spoke in the speech was about the aspirations of colorblind society, right? Content of the character, color of the skin. Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's see what the question was.
When you stood on the Lincoln Memorial that day in August '63, and you said, I had a dream, did that dream envision that you could see a war in Asia?
Oh my God, no!
Preventing the federal government doing for the Negroes, preventing the society doing for the Negroes, that which you think had to be done?
So
no.
Oh my God.
No. So he asked him about the Vietnam War.
Yes. The question is in response to the fucking Vietnam War. And you'll see when you listen to his answer, they cut it off right before he begins to mention the Vietnam War.
Right. What? How fucking dishonest. What a bunch of hacks. I wonder if Martin Luther King is spinning in his grave the way you're using him like a fucking puppet, like a little hand puppet to make your argument.
And he's not the only one. I've seen so many people use that clip. I think Cody Johnston used that clip. I've seen so many people use this fucking clip.
Oh my God.
And they all remove the context of the clip that this was about the Vietnam War.
And specifically about spending. He's basically saying, hey, you wanted these social programs. You talk about UBI. Now we don't have any money because we're spending it all in Vietnam. How do you feel about that?
Right.
He's like, nightmare.
And he actually, I think this is where he says it. I don't know if it's in the book or if it's there. He actually gives a pretty interesting, I think a good answer about how once countries go to war, it sort of galvanizes the focus in that direction away from
social issues. Yeah.
Social issues that are happening domestically.
This is one of the reasons why, and I think they're a bit justified in the people on the right wanting to minimize the Ukraine thing, because they're worried about, they're like, we have our own problems here we have to deal with. They're worried about being galvanized in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Which I completely
I think that's
relate
a justifiable
to.
concern. Yeah.
I would like them to make that argument. Yeah.
Right.
No, I didn't envision that then. I must confess that that period was a great period of hope for me. And I'm sure for many others all across the nation, many of the Negroes who had about lost hope, saw a solid decade of progress in the South. And in 1954, which was, 64, 1963, 9 years after the Supreme Court's decision to be in the March on Washington, meant a great deal. It was a high moment, a great watershed moment. But I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. But I've had to analyze many things.
Did they cut that part out in the John Oliver one?
Yeah, they cut a lot of this out.
They cut him out saying that he had faith and hope in the future?
No, of course they cut it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously. Come on.
Okay. Because I'm like, I don't remember him saying that, the John Oliver version.
They can't have Martin Luther King showing any kind of hope. Their whole narrative is that, nah, you got Martin Luther King wrong. He was black-pilled to the core. He had no optimism whatsoever.
Right.
Over the last few years, and I would say over the last few months, I've gone through a lot of soul-searching and agonizing moments. And I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial.
That's
and now
in there.
it must be tempered with a solid realism.
That's
and
in
I
there.
think the realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go, and that we are involved in a war on Asian
they
soil.
cut that out. Yeah,
That's right where they ended it.
They totally
ended
cut
it right where he says they ended it right where he says we have a long way to go.
Long way to go, and that we.
Isn't that right where they ended it?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, let me.
No, finish. I want to see the rest.
Oh, yeah. I know. I just played it in the other window. Yeah, they ended it right there. And then he continues.
We are involved in a war on Asian soil, which, if not checked and stopped, can poison the very soul of our nation.
Can poison the soul of our nation.
Right.
Vietnam can. Not white privilege, okay? He's not talking about white privilege here, guys. He's not saying whitey's going to come poison the soul of the nation.
Right.
He's not saying the legacy of slavery or redlining. No, he's not talking about any of that shit.
Yep.
Dr. King, even if there had not been a war in Asia.
Okay, and then it's more about the war.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why it's so dishonest. They cut out the entire context of the question.
Yeah.
And make it seem like he's talking about something completely different.
So dishonest. Dishonesty always, I think, is going to be John Oliver's new name.
And we'll listen, and it gets even worse.
Oh, really?
Because this is what he says earlier, okay?
Which all of us wanted.
Because this is an interesting question.
It can't get worse, Sitch. I don't believe you.
Oh, no, it gets worse.
This is terrible.
And degrading.
Apart from wanting to live better, which all of us want to do, to raise one's children in a better way, to be better, does the Negro in America know what he wants to be?
I'm convinced that almost every Negro in this country, other than those who have been so scarred by the system that they've become pathological in the process, and we all have to battle with pathology. Nobody really knows what it means to be a Negro unless one can really experience it. And I know we all have to battle with this constant drain of a feeling of nobodiness. But in spite of this, I think the vast majority of Negroes in this country know that they want to be people, they want to be men, they want equality, period. It just boils down to that. And we haven't been able to be people. We haven't been men because of all of the conditions that we've lived with and the syndrome of deprivation surrounding conditions, whether it's in housing, in the economic area, or in schools, or in the vicious credit practices that we face in the ghetto, and all of the problems of closed doors and constant defeats. But in spite of all this, I think we all know, basically, that we want to be men. We want to be persons judged not on the basis of the color of our skin, but on the basis of the content of our
He
character.
literally says the same fucking thing in the speech. John, you're so dishonest, John Oliver. You're so dishonest.
Oh my God.
This is systemic dishonesty. John Oliver doesn't know that he's completely lying to the public. He can't know this.
Well, whoever's putting together the package
Is
writing
a
the script
lying
is-
piece of shit.
Yes.
The
He
fucking
says-
editor on this is a lying piece of shit.
John Oliver has the gall to have a bunch of right-wingers, evil right-wingers, saying, oh, the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And he says, oh, MLK is spinning over in his grave. And here's him, talking about, why he'd be spinning over in his grave. And they play an out of context answer about the Vietnam War, and they neglect the beginning just a few minutes earlier where he literally repeats the same affirmation.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is and this is why John Oliver and Jon Stewart and all these fucking assholes are so lost in this conversation.
Yeah.
MLK was in favor of liberal reforms. He believed in individual rights.
Yes.
And what he's advocating for was that, listen, I alike and agree with the individual rights and the liberal principles put forward in the founding of our country.
Yep.
Okay. That, all men should be treated equal.
Yeah.
And there should be equality under the law, and should be able to pursue, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and all that good stuff. And all I want is for those things to apply to Black people too.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to expand the rights of, put forward in the Constitution to all people. That's what is being advocated for here. Treat me as a man, okay, not as the color of my skin.
Right.
And the current conversation with CRT is the fucking opposite.
Totally.
And this is what Jon Stewart and John Oliver have their heads up their ass. They don't understand. These CRT people are not advocating for expanding these rights to encompass all people. They're saying individual rights, the concept of individual rights, is a lie and is garbage, and it doesn't work. We tried to do that in the 70s. It didn't, or the 60s. It didn't bring about the changes we want. So now we need to throw that away, and we need to throw away the system that our entire legal system is based upon, and we need to come up with some new thing, which, by the way, will probably be some weird form of Marxism.
Where is that good old-fashioned MLK optimism? I miss it. I really do. I really do. I'm an optimist at heart. I felt like we were going in the right direction. What the hell happened?
I did too. And I mean, it's part of why I get so triggered when you have liars like Vosh and other people who are like, MLK was a radical Marxist who wanted to, revolt.
MLK was a radical optimist. And that's that is what is so hard for them to stomach. It really is. everyone out there, they're getting rich selling black pills to people. Oh, doom and gloom everywhere. People are getting rich off of that. And your mental health is what's suffering from all that nonsense. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's, I'm glad that Joe brought that example of, the converting of slaves, because I think that is like the perfect story to analogize what's happening here from both the liberal and the leftist perspective, because MLK was the guy saying he was taking my position and your position. He's saying we need to expand the in-group to encompass everyone. And so he's out here like, we need to convert the slaves to be Christians.
Yeah.
And that's what MLK is doing. He's like, we need to expand the in-group. We need to expand the in-group.
Yeah.
And then the CRT people are like, no, fuck your in-group. We need separate in-groups and separate out-groups.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand the psychology. We don't understand the morality that's at play here.
The sad thing is I do think they understand the psychology of it. They just want to use it for selfish electoral purposes.
Well, I think obviously the politicians just do that. I think the
rank and file Republicans.
I think the
Democrats.
rank and file regurgitators don't understand what they're advocating for. And I think the academics, the Kimberly Crenshaws and the Gary Pellers, who are writing this garbage, I think basically the analogy I would use is that they're writing blueprints on how to build bombs, bombs that will blow up and destroy aspects of our society.
Institutional bombs, rhetorical bombs.
Yes. And what's happening is a bunch of stupid people are getting these blueprints and they don't understand that they're building a bomb.
Right.
Or that the blueprint's about a bomb. And they go and they construct this bomb and they don't know what it is. And they press the fucking button and it blows up, or it's going to blow up when these bombs are all constructed. And that's who John Oliver and John Stewart are. They're useful idiots that have the blueprints to build bombs, and they're building these dumb fuck bombs to destroy our society. And they have no clue what they're doing, and they don't know what that button is going to do once they press it.
They're IED manufacturers, basically.
Right. But I do think, but Kimberly Crenshaw and Gary Peller, they know what's going on here.
Oh yeah,
they're trying to weaken society and stability in order to bring about their bizarro, weirdo Marxist revolution that they want.
She's just being nice at the party, Sitch. She's just being cool.
Is CRT Marxist? Joy, CRT's about all this other stuff. I'm not going to answer your question.
Exactly.
God, that is Joy, so unreal.
Come on, I thought we were friends.
that is so unreal. Kimberly Crenshaw couldn't answer whether CRT was Marxist directly.
I saved that clip just in case it disappears from the internet one day.
Good.
Yeah.
It probably already has disappeared. So I'm glad you saved it.
Yeah.
Look at this face.
Yeah.
That's the face of smug idiot, stupidity, smug idiocracy right there.
Yeah. Looking down his nose at how wrong you are, Sitch, when he's completely wrong.
Let me cut Martin Luther King out of context while I accuse other people of cutting Martin Luther King Jr. out of context. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus. Come on, John.
A-hole.
John Oliver, I respect you more than this. You're better than this shit. Okay. You've actually produced good segments in the past.
You're going to give him the do better.
He can do. His show has produced good segments about non-woke race bullshit.
He's dead to me.
What about
John
Christian
Oliver?
forgiveness?
No,
Adam?
Can't do it.
No, you skewing your Christian forgiveness. Okay.
Not with this bastard. He cut Martin Luther King, my optimist God, out of fucking context.
There you go.
No forgiveness here.
There you go.
Exactly. And in a book published that same year, he wrote that while the majority of white Americans consider themselves sincerely committed to justice.
Oh, we heard this part already.
Yeah. He tries to quote line from the book.
Well, and also the book, which I looked up, he's not even framing that either too. Because again, he's sort of dishonestly saying that the Republicans are bringing forward this, he thinks that the Republicans and the people on the right and the Dave Rubins and all these people are quoting MLK in order to justify inaction, when it's like, no, they're bringing it forward to say we don't want this CRT dog shit in our classrooms, which is obviously not the contention. It has nothing to do with what MLK was talking about back then.
No, fake moral panic, Sitch. You don't know. These Republicans are liars. They're just doing it because they want. They're doing it to stoke a moral panic, to drive people to the polls.
To create a version of history where MLK was a kind figure who existed solely to help white people win arguments. The truth is...
What a piece of shit, man.
Well, and he's doing the same. He's doing the thing he's accusing them of doing.
Oh,
they're trying to use MLK to win arguments.
The irony is off the charts here.
Right.
Well, at least the Fox News contributors didn't cut him out of context to win any arguments. A-hole, asshole, right?
Right.
He later reflected on his own message and challenged white people to look more deeply at themselves. And that is something the kids...
None of that was in there. He was talking about the Vietnam War. I went through all the things that weren't in there. Oh, John Oliver, man. This is a new low. This is horrible.
Should absolutely be learning about in school. But the problem is they won't if these laws continue. A white parent could plausibly claim that reading MLK's writing made their child feel discomfort on the basis of their race.
Why would they? Why the super optimism MLK? Why would they feel? Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. Even if some parent is super duper racist, okay? Even if Richard Spencer, I don't know if he's a kid, if Richard Spencer adopts a kid just to do a test case, okay?
That can't happen.
And he's like, my child, they were reading MLK's I Have a Dream speech, and it made my child feel bad about being white, okay? It doesn't matter because that's not what the law says. The law says the teacher is not allowed to teach that the child should feel discomfort or badness about their race.
Yeah.
Should, John, not whether they do or not, should feel that way.
Yeah. No one is gonna feel bad listening to Martin Luther King. It's impossible.
Well, I'm sure there's some people out there somewhere, but
no, they don't exist. Hi, you just listened to a clip from the Sitch and Adams show. If you like what you heard, you can listen to our live show right here on this channel on Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And if you want, you can super chat us. We read $20 and up super chats on the show and then do a follow-up stream on the following Tuesday where we read the rest of the unread super chats and interact with fans of the show. Subscribe to this channel right here to listen to the live show or to listen to more of our awesome clips.